Okay, so good afternoon to everyone and welcome to my class. And my name is Shankhanarayan Chattopadhyay, and I am your PMRF teaching assistant for the course Engineering Mathematics 1. And okay, as you all know that Professor Jitendra Kumar, he is actually the course supervisor. Professor Jitendra Kumar is actually the course supervisor, and I am your PMRF TA. I am currently doing PhD at the Indian Institute of Technology, Ropar, and so we will have a live interaction class in each Sunday from 6 to 8 o'clock. There will be a 2-hour class. So here I will mostly solve some typical problems regarding the topics discussed by Professor Kumar. So as you know, Engineering Mathematics 1, whose course code is actually NOCMA 88, it's a very basic course, and like it consists of different types of subjects. For example, there are some topics included from calculus, there are some topics included from like differential equations, some topics from linear algebra. So it is like a blend of different types of subjects. So we will try to learn them slowly. Just give me a second. So from past classes, sir has actually discussed like there are five lectures, I think he has uploaded, right, on the first week. Is my voice audible?
Yes, sir, audible.
Okay, so sir has probably discussed. Do you know that which topics has sir discussed already? Do you know them?
I don't know because I didn't watch it.
Okay, so I request you all people to please watch those lectures, because it will be very beneficial for you, because my this TA class is like subsidiary for those classes. Okay, so from next week onwards, please try to like go through the slides and the presentations by Professor Kumar. Okay, so I am just giving you a brief introduction about what he has taught in the last class. So actually like he has taught like beautiful concepts on real analysis part, consisting a single variable analysis, and he had actually taught about like differentiability of a single variable, and some questions on some questions on Rolle's theorem. Okay, and some topics on indeterminate forms. Indeterminate forms are like they are when if you have some sort of fraction, like where numerator as well as denominator, both of them are vanishing. So how to determine limit in that case? And also I think Sarah has discussed about Taylor's theorem, and Taylor's theorem is like one of the basics and fundamental theorems of real analysis. And Taylor's theorem is actually used a lot in the field of engineering mathematics. You can say in physical science, you can say in different types of applied mathematics field and all. So I am just giving a brief overview of the questions which I will discuss right now. So please stay tuned with me.
Sir, I have a question.
Please let me finish, and then I will be open for question answers. Okay.
Okay.
So here I have given some like some questions on determination of limits. So you see that there are 5 questions, and these questions actually we want to determine the limits, and I have the solutions. I will discuss the solutions. Like question number 1e, when limit x tends to 0 sin x by x. So you have to determine this question, and this question is like one of the very basic questions of limit. Okay, also I have given 2 or 3 questions on continuity. So like here we will try to understand what is about continuity of a single variable when for a function with single variable. And then like I have given some questions on differentiability. So there are like some questions based upon the theory as well as some questions of practical implementation. And question 7 and 8, question number 7 is a direct application of question number 7 is question number 7 is direct application of Rolle's theorem. Here we will try to implement Rolle's theorem. Question number 7 as well as question number 8, they are both of them are actually application of Rolle's theorem. So then I have given some questions on mean value theorem. Mean value theorem are actually like there are 2 forms of mean value theorem. One is the Lagrange's mean value theorem, the other one is the Cauchy's mean value theorem. So Lagrange's mean value theorem and Cauchy's mean value theorem, they are actually proven by the use of Rolle's theorem. So Rolle's theorem is the parent theorem here. So then I have given some problems on indeterminate forms, and you see what does we mean actually by saying indeterminate forms. See, in the numerator e to the power it is e to the power x minus e to the power minus x minus 2 log 1 plus x divided by x sin x. Now you see that if you put x equals to 0 in the numerator term, then it becomes e to the power 0 minus e to the power 0 minus 2 log of 1. Then it is actually becomes an indeterminate form. That is like beg your pardon, I think there is one printing typos here. It will be e to the power x plus e to the power minus x. Okay, it will be e to the power x plus e to the power minus x minus 2 log of 1 plus x. No, it is it is absolutely fine. E to the power 0 minus e to the power 0, it will be 1 minus 1 will be 0 minus 2 log 1 plus x. If you put instead of x 0, then it will become minus 2 log 1, and 2 into log 1 is equals to 0, then it will become minus 0. So the numerator term is 0, and in the denominator term it is x sin x. So 0 into 0, it will become like 0. So question number B is like limit x tends to 0 plus 1 by x minus 1 by sin x, 1 by x minus 1 by sin x. So it is like a form like 1 by 0 minus 1 by 0. And then C is there is another kind of indeterminate form where there is like limit x tends to 0 plus sin x by x. We will learn today how to determine that limit x tends to 0 plus sin x by x. Its value, can anybody please tell me that what is the value of limit x tends to 0 plus sin x by x? Yeah, absolutely right. Limit x tends to 0 plus sin x by x, it is actually 1. And see, 1 by x, this 1 by x, if we tend x towards 0, then what will be the value of 1 by x? It will be tending towards infinity. So here the indeterminate form, it has indeterminate property like 1 to the power infinity. So we will also learn that how to determine the indeterminate forms consisting indeterminate form like 1 to the power infinity. Okay, so now here I have given some direct implementation of, like, there is one popular concept of L'Hopital's rule. So we will learn how to use that L'Hopital's rule here. So L'Hopital's rules tells us that how to determine the limiting value of a 0 by 0 or like infinity by infinity, this type of limits. How to determine this type of limits like 0 by 0, infinity by infinity. Then the popular concept which is used is L'Hopital's rule. So we will try to learn the execution of L'Hopital's rule, and by frequent application of L'Hopital's rule we will try to determine the values of a or beta. Okay, so here are some trivial questions, and okay, so so my tutorial here actually consists of the topics covered by Professor Kumar on the first week itself. Am I clear? Okay, so without a delay, let's start. My solution, is it visible? Okay. Please mute yourself. Please mute yourself. Okay, so without a delay, let's proceed to solve the first question. So the first question which I will solve is to determine the limit of the function limit x tends to 0 sin x by x. So see, so here we will determine the right hand limit as well as the left hand limit. So prove that limit x tends to 0 sin x by x equals to 1. So in 0 less than x less than pi by 2, sin x is less than x less than tan x. You can prove it by simply drawing the curves. Okay, if you just draw the curves of sin x, x and tan x, you will see that sin x less than tan x in between the interval, open interval 0 to pi by 2. Therefore if we just divide by sin x to the inequality, then we will get sin x by x, sin x by x, this will be 1, and then this will be less than or equal to x by sin x less than 1 by cos x, because tan x by sin x is equal to 1 by cos x in 0 less than x less than pi by 2. Now as limit x tends to 0 plus 1 by cos x, now as x tends to 0 plus, what will be the value of cos x? The value of cos x will be 1. So 1 by 1 we will get simply 1. Now what we will see, that the above inequality reduces to 1 less than x by sin x less than 1 by cos x. So we will get 1 less than x by sin x less than 1. So we have limit x tends to 0 plus x by sin x, this is equal to 1. which is the implementation of squeeze theorem or the sandwich theorem. You can go through any real analysis book and you can have a look on the proof of sandwich theorem or squeeze theorem. Therefore what we get, that if we just change the numerator and denominator part, if we take just the inverse, then limit x tends to 0 plus sin x by x, it becomes 1. Now if we change the interval, here we have determined the right hand limit. Now to determine the left hand limit, we have to just consider the other interval minus my cursor is not visible. Is it not visible right now, my cursor? I think the cursor is now visible. Okay, so see, if we just now implement sandwich theorem here, so sandwich theorem what does, once again we will use the sandwich theorem, beg your pardon please. Okay, so in minus pi by 2 less than x less than 0, what we will get here, we will get tan x less than sin x. It is just the other inequality. Here we got sin x less than tan x, and here we will get tan x less than sin x. So therefore what we will get, similarly if we divide by cos x, we will get like similarly if we divide by sin x, we will get tan x divided by sin x, we will get 1 by cos x. Here we will get x by sin x, and here we will get sin x by sin x is equals to 1 in 0 less than x less than minus pi by 2. Now as limit x tends to 0 minus, here we are considering the left hand limit, the 1 by cos x value, it is actually 1. Now please mute yourself. So sandwich theorem, what sandwich theorem will give us here? The sandwich theorem will give us that limit x tends to 0 minus sin x by x, this will be equals to 1. Now combining left hand limit and right hand limit, we will get limit x tends to 0 plus sin x by x, this will be equal to limit x tends to 0 minus sin x by x, which is equals to 1. So it follows that limit x tends to 0 sin x by x equal to 1. So it is a very trivial result, and also it is very useful one. So limit we have learned today, the limit x tends to 0 sin x by x, this is equals to 1. Similarly by using L'Hopital's rule also we can prove it. How using L'Hopital's rule we can prove it? See, limit x tends to 0 sin x by x, so it is actually 0 by 0 form. So if we see here 0 by 0 form, then we will use L'Hopital's rule and we will get limit x tends to 0 derivative of sin x divided by derivative of x. So it will give us limit x tends to 0 cos x by 1. So cos x by 1. So if limit x tends to 0, the value of cos x will be 1. So we will get there directly that limit x tends to 0, sin x by x is equals to 1. See the next question. The next question is question number 1a, x square plus 3x and x square plus x plus 1 as x tends to plus infinity. Now see the limit in the upper half, the numerator is infinity divided by infinity, so infinity by infinity form, but we will try to prove it in a better way from just using. Now see, limit x square by plus 3x, we will divide by x, we will divide the numerator by x, also we will divide the denominator by x. So what we will get, limit x tends to infinity 1 plus 3 by x plus, if we divide by x square, we will get x square by x square will be 1 and plus x by x square will be 1 by x plus 1 by x square. So now if we see x tends to infinity, so 1 by x tends to 0 plus, so the numerator becomes 1 plus 0 and the denominator becomes 1 plus 0 plus 0. So the above we will get 1 divided by 1, so it will be just 1. Now see, next question is limit x tends to infinity sin x by x plus cos x. Limit x tends to infinity sin x divided by x plus cos x. Now sin x, it will be like, so sin x is a bounded function and sin x is bounded by 1. Okay, so modulus of sin x is always less than or equal to 1. So also cos x is also a bounded function and cos x is, modulus of cos x is less than or equal to 1 for all values of x. So we see here in the numerator term that sin x is a bounded function as modulus of sin x is less than or equal to 1. And no matter cos x is positive or negative or whatsoever, cos x will always lie in between -1 to 1. So as x tends to infinity, x plus cos x, it will tend towards infinity as x tends to infinity. So limit x tends to infinity sin x by x plus cos x, this is equals to 0. Next we move quickly to the question number 1c, limit x tends to infinity root x by root x plus 3. Once again, if x tends to infinity, we will just root x also tends to infinity. So what we will get, we will just divide by root x, and what we will get in the numerator term, we will get root x divided by root x, we will get 1, and as in the denominator part, it will be root x by root x, it will be 1 plus 3 by root x. So as root x tends to infinity, 1 by root x tends to 0 plus. So we will just put, instead of 1 by root x, 0. So it will be 1 plus 3 into 0. So it will be 1 by 1. So it will be only 1. Now see, limit, question number 1d, limit x tends to infinity 1 plus 2x to the power x. So see, limit x tends to infinity 1 plus, we will just take a algebraic manipulation here. So 1 plus 2 by x, it will be, we can write it as 1 plus 1 by x by 2. So here also we are using some algebraic manipulation, that x by 2 into 2. So x we can write it always as x by 2 into 2. So we will get like, so this is a very popular limit you can find it in any standard analysis book, that if limit x tends to infinity, 1 plus 1 by x to the power x is actually e, and we all know that e is a transcendental number. So in the power term we have 2, so we will get e square. Now limit x tends to infinity, sin x by x. Here we will see that we will just implement another thing. So it is actually sin x divided by x. So we will use like, so put y equal to 1 by x. So if we put 1 equal to 1 by x, here instead of x we can write 1 by y, and here is a sin 1 by y. So if y tends to 0 plus, limit y tends to 0 plus, we will write it as y into sin 1 by y. Now sin 1 by y, it is a bounded function. So as y tends to 0 plus, we will get 0 into some bounded function, some positive, some real quantity, and 0 into real quantity will give us 0. So now let's move to question number 2. Question number 2 is actually determination of continuity of a function, and we are to determine the continuity of the function at the point x equal to 2, where we have suitably defined the function fx as x square minus 4 divided by x minus 2 when x not equals to 2, and is equals to 10 when x equals to 2. So without a delay, try to solve question number 2. See, so fx equals to x square minus 4 divided by x minus 2 when x is not equal to 2, and it is equals to 10 when x equals to 2. So limit x tends to 2, x square minus 4 divided by x minus 2 divided by x minus 2. So if here we are just writing the formula, the algebraic formula, that x square minus 4 is equals to x plus 2 into x minus 2 divided by x minus 2. So x is not tending towards 0, that means that x does not equal to 2. So x plus 2 into x minus 2, it will give us x plus 2. So x plus 2, and if we just put x equals to 2 here, we will get 2 plus 2 equal to 4. So but what was the value given at x equals to 2? The value was x equals to 2, the value was 10. Okay, so but what we get the limiting value? We get 4. So since 4 is not equal to 10, we will get that f is not continuous at the point 2. But if we just suitably define it, that is instead of 10, if we put 4 here, then the function becomes continuous at the point x equals to 2. So 2 is a point of removable discontinuity. 2 is a point of removable discontinuity, because if we just, instead of writing here 10, if we just put it here 4, then we will get the discontinuity removed. So we will get the function to be continuous. Now let's move to the question number 3. Here the question number 3 is we have to determine that whether this function is continuous at the point x equals to 0 or not, where the function is fx is 1 by x into sin 1 by x when x not equals to 0, and this is equals to 0 when x equals to 0. So here limit x tends to 0 fx does not exist. How? That f is unbounded in 0 delta for each delta neighborhood of 0. So here if we tend x from the right hand limit, from the right hand side, you will get it infinity. But if you take it from the, if you take the limit from the left hand side, then you will get it to be a minus infinity. So the function 1 by x into sin 1 by x, it has a oscillatory discontinuity at the point x equals to 0. Please take it as a homework. Try to plot the curve y equal to 1 by x sin 1 by x. Then you will clearly understand what I am trying to say. So see, limit f tends to f, consider the function which is r to r, which is defined by fx as fx equals to x square sine 1 by x square, x equals to x not equals to 0, and 0 when x equals to 0. So when x is not equals to 0, f dash x, see, first we have to see the question, na? Okay, so question number 4. Question number 4 is like f hello, am I audible? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay, somebody asked me about the solutions. Please, I will share those slides and also the solutions in the Google Drive format, and I have already shared it with the NPTEL team, and I think from them you can collect it. Okay, I have also, I will upload the solutions also in my Google Drive folder, and I will share the folder link with the NPTEL team, and from them you can get it. I think they will share it to you guys, no tension. Okay, so see, question number 4. Let f r to r be defined. So f r to r be defined by fx equals to x square sine 1 by x square, x not equals to 0, and it is equals to 0 when x equals to 0. So that f is differentiable on r, but f prime is not continuous on r. So what we have to prove? We have to prove that f is differentiable on r, but we have to prove also that f prime is not continuous on r. So it has two questions inside it. Okay, so let's try without a delay, try to solve the question. The question is, first we have to prove that the function itself is derivable. So what we have to prove? The function is derivable. See, now see, let f r to r be defined by fx as fx equals to x square sine 1 by x square when x is not equals to 0, and it is 0 when x equals to 0. So first consider that x is not equals to 0, then f prime x, this is equals to 2x sine 1 by x square. So we are just taking the derivative. If we first, we have to, like, see, here we have a product term x square into sine of 1 by x square. So if we just first, we have to take derivative of this x square term, and this x square term, if we take derivative, we will get it as 2x. So it will be 2x into sine 1 by x square minus, if we just take derivative of 1 by x square, so 1 by x square will give us minus 2 into 1 by x cube, and here there is 1 x square term, so we will get minus 2 by x, and sine 1 by x square, its derivative will be cos 1 by x square. So now see, if we just take x tends to 0 limit fx minus f0 divided by x minus 0, so what we will get? We will get x square sine 1 by x square divided by x. So it will be limit x tends to 0 x sine 1 by x square, so which will give us 0. So therefore f prime 0 equals to 0, and hence f is differentiable on r, and the derived function f prime, which is actually defined by f prime x. So now we have already proved that f is differentiable on r, and the derived function f prime is defined by, so we have to directly determine the function f prime x. So f prime x it will be like 2x into sine 1 by x square minus 2 by x cos of 1 by x square. So f prime x, it will be 2x sin 1 by x square minus 2 by x cos of 1 by x square. X not equals to 0, and it will be 0 when x is equals to 0. So limit, clearly we say that limit x tends to 0, f prime x does not exist, because this 2 by x term, this 2 by minus 2 by x cos 1 by x square term, it will be like it will be tend to infinity. So that's why limit x tends to 0, f prime x does not exist. Since limit x tends to 0, 2 by x cos 1 by x square does not exist. This proves that f prime is not continuous at 0. So here we have clearly proved our question, that we have proven that f is differentiable on R, but f prime is not continuous on R. Okay, if I am audible, then please tell me that how many of you really go through the Rolle's theorem part. Can anybody please tell me that what is the statement of Rolle's theorem? Okay, Rolle's theorem, somebody has written it in the chat box, and okay, you are right. So what does Rolle's theorem tells? That Rolle's theorem tells that if a function fx, it is defined on the closed interval ab such and obviously f should be a real valued function, such that it is continuous on the closed interval ab, and it is differentiable on the open interval ab, then also if we take that functional values at the endpoints fa and fb, if they are equals to 0, if they are equals to each other, fa equal to fb, then in between the 2 points a and b we will get one point xi such that f dash xi will vanish, that is f dash xi will become 0. Okay, so see here question number 5, it is a very interesting question. Construct a function f a to b from R such that f is continuous on ab but fails to be differentiable at exactly 2 points. So we have to construct a function such that it is differentiable at it is not differentiable at exactly 2 points. Can you give me one example of a function which is not differentiable at the point 0? Can anybody please tell me? Yes, somebody has written in the chat box the question, the answer will be mod x, and you are absolutely right. If we consider the function fx equals to mod x, then it fails to be differentiable at exactly 1 point, and the point is x equals to 0. So can anybody please write one function in the chat box, like that function fails to be differentiable at exactly 2 points? Please think and then answer. That construct, you have to construct a function such that f is continuous on AB but fails to be differentiable at exactly 2 points. Okay, see, so if we take like okay, just see this question number 5. Just see question number 5. Can anybody please tell me that what should be the answer of question number 5? Okay, see, I have already given one example na, mod x equals to function is mod x when mod x is fails to differentiable at the point x equals to 0. Now just take the linear combination of two modulus functions. Take the function to be as fx equals to mod x plus modulus of x minus 1. Am I clear? So just take the function as fx equals to modulus of x plus modulus of x minus 1. Please, if you are rightly with me, then please answer. The person rightly answered me about the question. Am I clear or not? Okay, so so you have to construct a function f a to b from to r such that f is continuous on AB but fails to be differentiable at exactly 2 points. See, we are taking the interval to be minus 5 to 5, 10 to r be defined as fx equal to modulus of x plus modulus of x minus 1 for all x belongs to minus 5 to 5. This is non-differentiable at the function x equals to 0 and x equals to 1. Why? Because mod x is not differentiable at x equals to 0 and modulus of x minus 1 is not differentiable with at the point x equals to 1. Now it is your task to prove it. Okay, please give a try that this function is not differentiable, and it is, though it is continuous at the interval minus 5 to 5, but it is not differentiable at the point 0 and at the point x equals to 1. Am I clear? Please try to prove it. Okay, so I am just giving a hint how to prove that phi x equal to modulus of x, this function is not differentiable at the point x equals to 0. See, when x is greater than 0, what is the value of phi x? It will be modulus of x, so it will be x. If x equals to 0, then phi x will be 0. If x equals less than 0, then it will be minus x. So for x greater than 0, f dash x will be 1. See, since x is greater than 0, then phi x is just x. So phi, it will be like notational ambiguity. Don't think it is like phi and f are same. Okay, I have just used two different notations. Am I clear? Here phi and f, please read it as same. Don't keep any notational ambiguity. So for x tends to x greater than 0, f prime x becomes 1, and when x is less than 0, f prime x becomes minus 1. So see, the left hand limit and right hand left hand derivative and right hand derivative are not equal. So that's why left hand limit and right hand limit are not equals. So we will write that the function is not differentiable at the point x equals to 0. Now next move to question number 6. Question number 6 says that show that the set of conditions in Rolle's theorem is a set of sufficient conditions in the sense that So that the set of conditions in Rolle's theorem is a set of sufficient conditions in the sense that f dash x may be 0 at some point xi in AB even if the conditions of the theorem do not hold together. That means we are to prove that the function fails to be differentiable. Function fails to satisfy all the conditions of Rolle's theorem, but still the output means still the thing that f prime xi is vanishing at the point xi will be true though the conditions is not satisfied. Am I clear? My question is clear? That so that the set of conditions in Rolle's theorem is a sufficient conditions in the sense that f prime x may be 0 at some point xi in AB even if the conditions of the theorem do not hold together. So see, so what we will do, we will try to construct a function f such that the conditions of Rolle's theorem do not hold together, but still we will get one xi such that f prime xi is equals to 0. See, so the set of conditions in Rolle's theorem is a set of sufficient conditions, and sufficient conditions in the sense that f prime x may be 0 at some point xi in AB even if the conditions of the theorem do not hold together. To establish this, let us consider the function f defined on -1 to 2 by f of x equals to modulus of x plus modulus of x minus 1. So take x belongs to -1 to 2. Now fx equals to 2x minus 1 if 1 less than x less than or equal to 2, and fx equals to 1 if 0 less than or equal to x less than 1. Just use the write separately what will be the mod x and mod x minus 1 in those three intervals, and you will get these three results. Now fx is continuous on -1 to 2. 2x minus 1 is a polynomial function of the form ax plus b, so it is continuous on 1 to 2. Also 1 minus 2x, it is also a polynomial function, so it is also continuous on -1 to 0, and 1 is the constant function in the interval 0 to 1, so it is also continuous. Also if we just put here 1, so what we will get, 2 minus 1 is 1, here it is 1, so the right hand limit also matches, and here if we put instead of x we put 0, so we get 1 minus 2 into 0 will be 1, so 1 will be equals to 1, so right hand and left hand limit both are equals. So f is continuous on -1 to 2, f is not differentiable at 0 and 1. So this we have already proved that this function is not differentiable at x equals to 0 as well as x equals to 1. F minus 1 and f of 2 is equals to 3. If we just put that 2 into minus 1, it will be like -2 minus 1, so it will be like if we just here put in -1, so you will get like 3. 1 minus 2 into -1, so you will get here 3, and here you will get 2 into 1, 2 into 2 minus 1, you will get it to be 3. So therefore, so though f is not differentiable at 0 and 1, that means f has 2 points of non-differentiability at this open interval -1 to 2. So f is not satisfying the Rolle's theorem, but f prime x equals to 0. How? That see, from 0 to 1 it is 1, so if you take the derivative it will be 0. So for all x belongs to the open interval 0 to 1, this will be 0. So although f does not satisfy all the conditions of Rolle's theorem together on -1 to 2, f prime x equals to 0 at some points in -1 to 2. So here our question is, we have proved that though the conditions of Rolle's theorem is not satisfied, still we are proving the Rolle's theorem. Please turn off your mics. Please unmute yourself. Please mute yourself. Please. So question number 6 we have already proved. Now see question number 7. If Px is a polynomial of degree greater than 1 and K belongs to R, we have to prove that any two real roots of Px equals to 0, there is a real root of P prime x plus Kpx equals to 0. So if Px is a polynomial, what does we mean by polynomial? By polynomial of we can always give can you give me one example of a quadratic polynomial? Please unmute yourself and answer it. Can you give me one example of quadratic polynomial? Okay, so it is a quadratic polynomial. Why the quadratic polynomial? Because the largest degree here is 2. So it is a quadratic polynomial. So if Px is a polynomial of degree greater than 1 and K belongs to R is a real constant, we have to prove that in between two real roots of Px equals to 0, there is a real root of P prime x plus Kpx equals to 0. So without a delay, let's move towards. See, let we assume that fx this is equals to e to the power kx into px. Okay, so e to the power, let us assume that fx equals to e to the power kx into px for all x belongs to R. Okay, so today is the first class, so I am admitting everybody, but please try to maintain the decorum. Okay, please try to join in between 6:10 or 6:15. It is a 2-hour TA class, so if you are joining in 6:50, it is not that much good. So you should maintain some punctuality and all. So let fx equals to e to the power kx into px, x belongs to R, then f prime x will be the derivative of it. So the derivative will be like e to the power kx, its derivative will be k e to the power kx into px plus e to the power kx into p prime x. Here dp dx is equal to p prime x. So if we take e to the power kx common, then we will get e to the power kx into kpx plus p prime x equal for all x belongs to R. Let alpha and beta be two real roots of px and alpha is less than beta. So we have already told that px has two real roots, and in between these two real roots we have to prove that that function actually vanishes. So therefore what we get? Therefore we get f of alpha. So p alpha beta two real roots of px and alpha is less than beta. So we will get p alpha equals to 0 and p beta equals to 0. So therefore what we get, that if p alpha p beta 0, then f alpha equal to the power k alpha into p alpha, it will be 0. F beta equal to the power k beta into p beta, this will also be equals to 0. So also f is continuous on AB. F prime x exists at all x belongs to alpha beta. Also f alpha equal to f beta. So if we implement Rolle's theorem, so there exists some gamma in between alpha and beta such that f prime gamma equals to 0. And what is f prime gamma? You have to just put f prime gamma. F prime gamma will be e to the power k gamma into k into p gamma plus p prime gamma equals to 0. Since e to the power k gamma not equals to 0, it can never be 0 for any real k and real gamma. So we should always have that the quantity in between the bracket kp gamma plus p prime gamma, this should vanish and this should be equals to 0. That is, gamma is a root of kpx plus p prime x equals to 0, where alpha less than gamma less than beta. Yes, because k is greater than 1. K is greater than 1. k is greater than 1. Because if k is equals to 1, then it will be a yeah, I have already mentioned in the questions. Since here see, if we just have here to have two roots alpha and beta, we should always have k greater than 1, because for k equal to 1 we cannot have two roots, because there is one theorem called fundamental theorem of classical algebra, where we get that a nth degree polynomial has exactly n roots. So if it is a 1th degree polynomial, then it will have only one root. So if we are taking two roots, that means conversely that the k is greater than 1. Now question number C, it is a just question number 8, that if a to b to r be continuous on AB and f prime x exists for all x belongs to AB, let a is less than c and less than b, we have to prove that there exists a point xi in AB such that f c is equal to b minus c b minus a f a plus c minus a c minus b f b plus half of c minus a c minus b f double prime xi. Okay, now without a delay solve. So what we will do, here we will construct one function phi. Construct a function phi from a to b, closed interval a to b to r, such that be defined as phi of x equals to f of x minus b into x minus c divided by a minus c f a minus x minus a divided by b minus c f b minus x minus b c minus b f c, where x belongs to closed interval AB. Now phi is continuous on AB. Since f is continuous on AB and f double prime x exists for all x belongs to AB, f prime is continuous on AB. Therefore phi double prime x exists for all this and phi prime is also continuous on AB. Just see the function phi. It is just a linear combination of differentiable and continuous functions. Okay. So in between, so it will be like phi prime is continuous on AB and hence phi is also differentiable on AB. So also you will just see that phi of a will be 0. Phi of a will be phi of a will be 0. See, phi of a will be a minus b into a minus c, it will be fa minus fa, and this is a minus a and this is here also a minus a, so it will be already cancelled out. So phi a will be fa minus fa, this will be like 0. Similarly you can prove that phi b equals to 0 and phi c equals to 0. So we will apply Rolle's theorem by breaking it up into two intervals, a to c and c to b. So what we have, that in between AC we will have some xi1 such that phi prime xi1 equals to 0 for some xi1 in between this interval, and some xi2 equals to 0 for some xi2 belongs to CB. So applying Rolle's theorem to the function phi prime on xi1 xi2, we have phi prime. So since phi prime xi1, phi prime is continuous on xi1 xi2, phi prime is differentiable on the open interval xi1 xi2. So we will now apply Rolle's theorem on phi prime. So what will be the derivative of phi prime? Phi prime ka derivative will be phi double prime. So there will be one xi in between xi1 and xi2 such that phi double prime xi will equals to 0. That is phi double prime xi equals to 0 for some xi belongs to this. Now consider this as phi x. You have to just take derivative of this function. If we just take derivative of, it's like phi x, you take d phi dx and then d2 phi dx2, you will get that phi double prime xi equals to f prime double prime xi minus 2fa this. So here you have to this just phi double prime xi equals to 0, use this phi double prime xi equals to 0 and then put the form of phi double prime xi and you will get the desired result. See, Question number 9, 10 and 11 are direct applications of mean value theorem. Question number 9, what question number 9 says that you have to use mean value theorem to prove 0 less than 1 by x less than log e power x minus 1 by x less than 1 for x greater than 0. So this question I will not prove, I will not solve, it will be your home task. This question number 9 will be your home task. I will prove question number 10. Use Taylor's theorem to prove that 1 plus x by 2 minus x square by 8, this is less than square root of 1 plus x divided by 1 plus x by 2 whenever x is greater than 0. Is my question clear to all? Okay, so without a delay, let's solve question number 10. Okay, thanks for your response. So let fx equals to square root of 1 plus x when x is greater than or equal to 0. Now we will just use Taylor's theorem. Okay, do you have really go through the Taylor's theorem, the statement of the real Taylor's theorem? Okay, so what does Taylor's theorem tells? Taylor's theorem is some sort of extension of the mean value theorem. Taylor's theorem, using Taylor's theorem, we can approximate some really complicated functions like e to the power x sine of x plus cos of x into tan of 1 by x. This type of trigonometric, all like transcendental, all like logarithmic functions, we will try to approximate them by using polynomials. So see, fx equals to square root of 1 plus x. So f prime x is 1 by 2 root over 1 plus x. What is f double prime x? It is minus 1 4 1 plus x to the power 3 by 2. F triple prime x, it will be just derivative. So here the derivative is 3 by 8 1 plus x to the power 5 by 2. So by using Taylor's theorem with Lagrange's form of remainder after 3 terms for any x greater than 0, we will write fx as f of 0 plus x of f prime 0 plus x square by factorial 2 f double prime 0 x cube by factorial 3 f triple prime 0 c for some c belongs to 0 to x. So what does the square root of x implies? Square root of x 1 plus x implies 1 plus x by 2 minus x square by 8. Here you have to just put in these things, you have to just put the value. The value will be f dash 0 will be 1 by 2, f double prime 0 will be minus 1 by 4, and f triple prime c, this will be like 1 plus c. So here we have just implied the Taylor's theorem. See, it will be like f of x equals to f of 0 plus x into f prime 0 plus x square by factorial 2 into f double prime 0 plus x cube by factorial 3 into f triple prime c, where c is some in between 0 to x. So therefore for x greater than 0, we can write it is, this is always a positive quantity, this 1 by 16 1 plus c to the power 5 by 2. So this is actually this term 1 plus x by 2 minus x square by 8 plus some positive quantity. So square root of 1 plus x is always less than 1 plus x by 2 minus x square by 8. Since 1 by 16 1 plus c to the power 5 by 2 is greater than 0. By Taylor's theorem with Lagrange's form of remainder after 2 terms for any x greater than 0, similarly we will use once again by 2 terms. So what we will get, fx plus f of 0 plus x f prime 0 plus x square by factorial 2 f double prime d, where for some d belongs to 0 to x. So what does we get? We will just get these things, this f0 plus x f prime 0 plus x square by factorial 2 f double prime d. So f double prime d will be this term. So this is also greater than 0. So this is positive term minus some positive term. So this square root of 1 plus x, this will be less than or equal to 1 plus x by 2. Okay. So 1 plus x by 2 minus x square by 8, this is less than 1 plus square root of x plus 1 plus x by 2 if x greater than 0. Now see, question number 11, let C belongs to R and a real function f be such that f double prime is continuous on some neighborhood of C. We have to prove that limit h tends to 0, f of c plus h minus 2fc plus f of c minus h divided by h square. This is actually the second derivative at the of a at the point C, that is f double prime c. So is my question clear? This question number 11. Is it clear? Okay. So we actually call this type of we will call this type of approximation as finite difference approximation. Okay. So if you ever take like courses on computational partial derivatives or like computational partial derivatives or like approximation theory, this type of things, you will always use some sort of approximation. So if you just see that limit h tends to 0, f of c plus h minus 2fc plus fc minus h divided by h square, this is equal to f double prime c. We have to prove it. Now see, without a delay, let f double prime be continuous on c minus d, c plus d for some delta greater than 0 by Taylor's theorem with Lagrange's form of let f double prime be continuous on c minus d delta and c plus delta for some delta greater than 0 by Taylor's theorem with Lagrange's form of remainder after two terms for any h satisfying 0 less than h less than delta. We will write it as f of c plus h equal to f of c plus h f prime c plus h square by factorial to f double prime c plus theta h. It is just implementation of Taylor's mean value theorem, Taylor's theorem by using Lagrange's form of remainder. Similarly, f of c minus h, this will be fc minus h of f prime c plus h square by factorial to f double prime c minus theta prime h, where theta prime is in between some 0 to 1. So if we just add them up, so what we will get, f of c plus h plus f of c minus h minus 2 of fc, we will get it as h square by factorial to f double prime c plus theta h plus f double prime c minus theta prime h. So f of c plus h plus f of c minus h minus 2fc divided by h square, this is equals to 1 by 2 f double prime c plus theta h plus f double prime c minus theta prime h. Now f double prime is continuous at c. See, there is the written that f double prime is continuous on some neighborhood of c. So we will use this continuity part, that f double prime is continuous at c. So limit if the function is continuous, so the limits will match with the functional values. So if limit h tends to 0, f double prime c plus theta h, it will be f double prime c, and similarly limit h tends to 0, f double prime c minus theta prime h, it will be f double prime c. Hence limit h tends to 0, this will be f double prime c plus f double prime c, so it will be 2 f double prime c, so it will be half into 2 f double prime c, so it will be f double prime c. Is this question clear right now? Okay. I will not prove question number 9. Okay, question number 9 is your home task. Try to solve. Okay, so the last part of my today's class, today's TA class. So here we will use L'Hopital's rule. Now somebody asked me one question that why I am not using L'Hopital's rule, because first we did not know the L'Hopital's rule, na? L'Hopital's rules. So first we have to learn the L'Hopital's rule. It is not that when we can prove it by using the definition, then it is always recommended to use the definition, not using the L'Hopital's rule. L'Hopital's rule is our last weapon against solving complicated limits when there will be 0 by 0 or infinity by infinity like of problems. So see, limit e की power x minus e की power minus x minus 2, this log is actually natural logarithm, its base is e. Okay, this log is natural logarithm, which means its base is e, not 10. It is the calculus logarithm, it is not the algebraic logarithm. It is log means ln, natural logarithm. So we will without a delay we will try to solve the question limit x tends to 0 e to the power x minus e to the power minus x minus 2 log 1 plus x x sin x. So see, here the limit takes the indeterminate form 0 by 0. We have to apply L'Hopital's rule successively. The evaluation of the limit can be exhibited as follows: limit x tends to 0 e to the power x minus e to the power minus x minus 2 logarithm of 1 plus x divided by x sin x. So what does we get? If we take derivative, it will be e to the power x plus e to the power minus x minus 2 1 by 1 plus x divided by x into sin x. The derivative of sin x is cos x plus the derivative of x is 1, so it will be sin x. Limit x tends to 0 to the power x minus e to the power minus x plus 2 by 1 plus x square. Once again we are here also see it is 0 by 0 form, because it is 1 plus 1 minus 2 by 1 plus 0. So it will be 1 plus 1 e to the power x plus e to the power 0 plus e to the power 0. It will be 1 plus 1 plus 1. So it will be 2 minus 2. So it will be 2 minus 2 is equal to 0 divided by x cos x. 0 into 1, it will be 0 plus sin x. Sin 0 0. So it will be like 0 by 0 once again. So once again we will use L'Hopital's rule. Now what we get? E to the power x minus e to the power minus x plus 2 of 1 plus x whole square divided by minus x sin x plus 2 of cos x. How we will get this 2 of cos x? See, x of cos x, x into cos x. So if we take derivative of cos x, we will get minus x sin x. If we derivative of x, we will get cos x, and here sin x का derivative होता है cos x. So cos x plus cos x will get 2 cos x. So here it is not 0 by 0 form. It is like 1 minus 1, it is equals to 0 plus 2. So 2 divided by 2 divided by 2. So what we will get? 2 divided by 2, we will get 1. Is the question clear? So we can using L'Hopital's rule we can prove indeterminate forms of 0 by 0 terms. Okay. Next, please move to the second question, that limit x tends to 0 plus 1 by x minus 1 by sin x. We have to solve this question. Without a delay, let's proceed. See, limit x tends to 0 plus 1 by x minus 1 by sin x. Assume fx equals to 1 by x for x belongs to 0 to 1 and gx equals to 1 by sin x. So 0 by so limit x tends to 0 plus fx minus gx. This takes the indeterminate form infinity minus infinity. Professor Kumar. Yes, I was also trying to say the same thing. This question is already discussed by Professor Kumar. Still I am discussing it. Okay. So 1 by x minus 1 by sin x. So we have to just take like we have to do this calculation. We will get like LCM of x and sin x is x sin x. It is sin x minus x. So it will be 1 second 0 by 0 form. So we will just take using L'Hopital's rule. We will take derivative. So we will get cos x minus 1. We will get x cos x plus sin x. 1 second it is 0 by 0 form. So we get minus sin x divided by minus x sin x plus 2 cos x. So it is not now 0 by 0 form because the numerator is 0 but the denominator is 2. So what we will get? We will get it equals to 0. Now the question number 12c. Question number 12c is limit x tends to 0 plus sin x by x to the power 1 by x. Limit x tends to 0 plus sin x by x to the power 1 by x. Okay. Sin x by x to the power 1 by x. Now see, limit x tends to 0 sin x by x to the power 1 by x. Let fx equals to sin x by x when x is not equals to 0. X is not equals to 0 and gx equals to 1 by x. Plus 1 by x, this value is 1 by infinity. So what we get? That limit x tends to 0 plus fx to the power gx takes the indeterminate form. Limit x tends to 0 plus fx to the power gx takes the indeterminate form 1 to the power infinity. This takes the indeterminate form 1 to the power infinity. Now we will take log of sin x by x to the power 1 by x equals to limit x tends to 0 plus log of sin x by x divided by x. It is once again 0 by 0 form because log is a continuous function. If you just put the limit inside, you will get 1, so it will be 0, and the denominator is already in 0 form. So limit x tends to 0 plus x by sin x divided by x square. So if you derivative it, you will get x cos x minus sin x. So once again it is 0 by 0 form. Here I did the manipulation, algebraic manipulation. We get x by sin x. So once again it is 0 by 0 form. We will once again take derivative. So it will be minus x sin x plus cos x minus cos x. So it will be like once again 0 by 0 form. Once again we have to take derivative. So minus x cos x minus sin x minus x sin x plus 2 cos x. Now it is like the numerator is 0 and the denominator is also see here limit x tends to 0 plus minus x cos x minus sin x minus x sin x plus 2x. So it will be coming that limit x tends to 0 plus sin x by x. So it is 0. So we have taken it as logarithm. Okay, we have taken it as logarithm. So to prove it, we have to like take the actual value sin x by x to the power 1 by x, we have to take e to the power 0. So what we will get, the limit x tends to 0 plus sin x by x to the power 1 by x, this will be e to the power 0 equals to 1. Now also we have limit x tends to 0 minus fx equals to 1, and limit x tends to 0 minus gx equals to minus infinity. Limit x tends to 0 minus fx to the power gx takes the indeterminate form 1 to the power minus infinity. Okay, 1 to the power minus infinity. So see, so we have for limit x tends to 0 plus we have proved it. Now for x tends to 0 minus we have to prove the same. So fx to the power gx takes the indeterminate form 1 to the power minus infinity. Proceeding similarly, we have limit x tends to 0 minus sin x by x to the power 1 by x equals to 1. So consequently we will get limit x tends to 0 equal to sin x by x equals to 1. Is it clear? We have just used L'Hopital's rule successively, and then we have implemented that since the left hand limit and right hand limit are equal, so we are concluding that x tends to 0 is also sin x by x is equals to 1. Now the last two questions of today's class. So first question number 13, we have to find a such that limit x tends to 0, a sin x minus sin 2x by tan cube x, this is equals to beta, where beta is some finite value. Is this question clear to you? That we have to find that a such that this limit is equals to some finite value beta. So given limit x tends to 0, a sin x minus sin 2x divided by tan cube x equal to beta. So this is actually 0 by 0 form. Limit x tends to 0, a cos x minus 2 cos 2x, we are taking derivative using L'Hopital's rule. Okay, so we are using L'Hopital's rule here. A cos x minus 2 cos 2x tan cube x, the derivative of tan cube x is 3 tan square x into the derivative of tan x is sec square x. So now see, the denominator term 3 tan square x sec square x, this is tending towards 0 as x is tending towards 0. So to use L'Hopital's rule once again, we must have a cos x minus 2 cos 2x, this should also tends to 0, otherwise we cannot apply L'Hopital's rule. Because to apply L'Hopital's rule, we should have once again in this term, we should have once again 0 by 0 form. So as x tends to 0, this a cos x minus 2 cos 2x should also tends to 0. So y should have the value, so a should equal to 2. Is this clear? Now one home task for you. Please try to find the value of beta. In this question number 13, now try to find the value of beta. Okay, am I clear? So we got the value of a as equals to 2. Now we have to determine the value of beta. Now the last question of today's class, find a and b such that a e की power x plus b e की power minus x plus 2 of sin x, this is sin x by x cos x equals to 2. Is this question also clear? Here we have actually two variables to deal with. It is a as well as b. Okay. In question number 13 it was only a. We have to determine only the value of a. Now in question number 14 we have to determine a as well as the question number as well as the variable b. So what is given? What is given? That limit x tends to 0, a e की power x plus b e की power minus x plus 2 sin x by sin x plus x cos x is equals to 2. Now sin x plus x cos x, this tends to 0 as x tends to 0. to use L'Hopital's rule, we must have a e की power x plus b e की power minus x plus 2 sin x tends to 0. So it will become like a plus b plus 2 sin x. This would equal tends to 0. So we should have a plus b equals to 0. So a should be equals to minus b. Put this term in here. A e की power minus x minus a e की power minus x plus 2 sin x by sin x plus x cos x. It is once again 0 by 0 form. It is once again 0 by 0 form. There will be a e की power x minus a e की power minus x plus 2 sin x by x plus cos x. Once again, if you just take derivative, you will get a e की power x plus a e की power minus x plus 2 cos x. If in the denominator part it will be sin x, so the derivative will be 2 cos x minus x sin x. So now it is clearly, it is a plus 2 divided by 2 minus 0. It is 2a plus 2 divided by 2, so it will be a plus 1. Now in question, the value of the limit is given to be equals to 2. So what we will get, that this a plus 1 should always equals to 2. So what should be the value of a? It should be 1. Okay, am I clear? This question is clear to you all? Okay, now if anybody has any questions, please ask me. Yes, obviously. From NPTEL questions, you NPTEL classes, you will be highly get okay, from NPTEL questions itself you can learn a lot of things, like in today's class we have learned about like limit, continuity, differentiability, and like Rolle's theorem. Okay, so like but I always suggest you guys to read some good books. Please read some good books and also watch the videos, because I have before coming to your lecture series, I have also went through the series by Professor Jitendra Kumar, and it is really sufficient. If anybody has any question, he or she can unmute himself or herself and can ask me. Okay. Okay, somebody asked about reference books. Okay, so I highly recommend you guys to go through the calculus book by Piskunov, or the engineering mathematics book by like Erwin Krejcik, and there are standard books like there is one standard book of real analysis called Bartley-Sherbert. It is a Wiley publication book. You can go through that book also, that Bartley-Sherbert book. It is a very nice book, so you can go through that Bartley-Sherbert book. Okay, internship regarding, actually I don't have that much information regarding internship and all, so sorry for I cannot that much tell you about the internship. I don't have that much idea. Any other question other than internship? So you have any question regarding today's class? Any question regarding today's class? If you have any question regarding today's class, then please unmute yourself and ask me. Okay, don't take tension about the questions and all about the things. I will actually upload the PDFs in my Google folder, and I have already shared the folder with the NPTEL team. On that link, you will open the link and you will see the solutions or the questions. So let's discuss about I have shared it with NPTEL team. I think NPTEL team will share you. Okay, in my weekly log sheet I have shared the NPTEL my Google folder link. Yes, I will upload them in my YouTube channel. Also, I will send the link to the NPTEL team. From them you can collect it. I think they will notify you. Okay. Also, if you have any questions, you can ask in the NPTEL that discussion forum, and I will try to answer your queries about. Currently, I don't have any YouTube channel. I am recording your today's lecture, and I will surely upload it, and you can actually get link and all of videos from the NPTEL team itself. Okay, currently I don't have any YouTube channel, but I will definitely, yes, I will send the lecture notes with the NPTEL team, and from them you can collect it. Okay, so if no more questions are there, then we will meet once again in the next Sunday. Okay, next Sunday from 6 to 8, and please join with me. And it is also a learning platform for me also, because I am also new to this online platform. Okay, I am also new to this online platform, so please join this NPTEL team. Stay with us, and also it will be like useful or beneficial for me in my upcoming career. So please try to join in good time span. If it is class in between 6 to 8, if it is from 6 to 8, then please try to join in between 6 to 6:10. Okay, so from 6 to 6:10 try to join, because we should maintain some punctuality and decorum and all. So I will definitely try to put my 100% effort to teach you something. Also ask me good quality questions, so that I also get some benefit from it. And if you have any concerns, you can unmute yourself and can talk to me directly. Do you have any concerns or queries about the lectures or how to improve? You can always say. Okay. So I am from Indian Institute of Technology, Ropar. I am currently staying in Rupnagar, Punjab. I am currently in PhD second year. Okay, so I am here joined with you as from Punjab itself. So it is my PhD second year is going on. No, I did not do BTech. I am from maths background. I did BSc and then MSc, and then I am doing PhD at IIT Ropar, and it is my PhD second year. Okay, I am not from BTech background. I am from BSc MSc background. I am currently doing PhD in mathematics. So if no questions, then thank you everybody, and we will meet once again in the next class. Okay, see you soon. Bye.